Jacqui Joseph, welcome to the Confidence Clinic. You're a TV presenter.
Yeah.
You're best known for working the BBC. What I'm here to talk to you about today is something a bit more personal.
When you lose a loved one, it's that hit. But I literally burst into tears in Sainsbury's. It's very difficult to even think that you can carry on at that point. I mean, gosh. You're stronger than you think and braver than you know.
Yeah.
That's why it's always good to talk.
Yeah.
And someone will say to you, but, you know, Jane, look how far you've come. Because you might not see it. Be kind to yourself and be patient.
And that is so important.
It's so important, honestly.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jane Leonard. I'm a GP and cosmetic doctor, and this is the Confidence Clinic. Every week, I'm going to be sitting down with different guests to talk about their life story. We're going to talk about how they got to where they've got, the challenges they've overcome along the way, and how confidence has played a role in their journey. So, Jacqui Joseph, welcome to the Confidence Clinic.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for joining me. To give a bit of background about you, so you're a TV presenter.
Yeah.
You're best known for working the BBC.
Yeah.
The Homes Under the Hammer, Money for Nothing, Morning Live.
Yeah.
Revamping furniture.
Yeah.
Upcycling. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Upcycling,
Yeah, upcycling. Yeah.
Which is very important now, given the current crisis. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is something a bit more personal. So you've been really open about your journey with grief since sadly losing your husband, Andy, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So to kind of kick things off with a very open question, from that point 5 years ago, how has your journey with grief been?
It's been a sort of mixed emotions, really. So initially, when you lose a loved one, it's that hit. And your first thing is when you look, it's really weird, Jane, but like when you look out the window and you see people walking by and what have you, you just think, what are they doing? Don't they know what's happened? Why are they just carrying on? And then you go through this whole process of sorting everything out, you know, because you have to get to the nitty-gritties of things. Normal, which I didn't know was that normal, but normal things like getting the passport back, sorting out things like council tax, getting, you know, the driving licence back to DVLA, making sure, closing all accounts and, you know, everything. So you're sort of swept up in that. So even then your grief is there, but because you've got so many other things to sort out, it sort of takes a little backseat. This is what happened for me for a while. And then obviously organising the funeral and everything. So the grief is there, but it's there in a different way because you've got so many things going on. And then for me, it kind of hit, you know, maybe 2 months later, a month, 2 months later, where then it's just like, you know, a part of you is sort of gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. And you have to sort of, it's very difficult to even think that you can carry on at that point. But somehow night turns into day, day turns into night, and it goes on and on and on. But I didn't really do much for several months.
Yeah.
I was more sort of at home, didn't really do anything, didn't go to meetings, anything like that. And I just sort of kept myself within myself. But in my heart, Andy was still there.
Yeah.
You know, and that actually helped me, and it still does to this day with my grief. As far as I'm concerned, he's still there. So when I come home, oh hey, And I'm back, or I'll talk to him, tell him about my day, or if I'm watching a show that we used to love, you know, I'll talk about it. So that really helps me personally. But grief is a very personal thing, and everyone will go through it in a different way. But I was lucky that I had family. I've got a big family. So, you know, there's 6 of us, 6 kids. So, you know, you had, you know, lots of sort of interaction and lots of help, lots of support. You know, they helped me with, you know, sorting out everything. But at the end of the day, it's you that has to deal with it. You know, they can be there, but when they go, you're there on your own with your emotions, and you have to just take it day by day. If you want to have that day when you just want to cry, then that's okay. You want to have that day when you just feel, let me go for a walk, then that's
Yeah.
okay. You know,
I think the way you describe it as a journey is a
Yeah.
really helpful way to kind of describe it, particularly when you're saying at the start where you've got to, obviously it's a shock no matter,
Yeah.
even if you're prepared for it or not.
Yeah.
And then you've got to do all that like
Yeah.
admin, but the way you're describing it just comes into my head. I mean, I can't understand because I've not been through this, but having to go through those tasks when you're probably feeling like
Yeah.
shell shocked, like doing all these big things like speaking to DVLA,
Yeah.
talking to council tax, doing all
Yeah.
these things that even the best of times when you're in the best of form or the best
Yeah.
mood, it's very like real, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
something.
it's very final, you know, and
Yeah.
it's that time you have to go to the, you know, the town hall and, you know, get the death certificate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you sat there, and then they'll say, you know, how many copies do you need? You know, and you'll say, well, I need, you know, like 10 copies, because you have to send a copy of these death certificates to all these people, passport,
Right.
you know, everything, you know. But it's just like,
I suppose at that time, I mean, doing things like that and having to put your mind into something that when you're feeling so probably emotionally shocked and overwhelmed,
Yeah.
even that process is like, I didn't even think about that, but
Yeah.
very, like you've got to just do it, haven't you?
You've
and
got
you've
no
got
choice,
to do it, yeah.
and you've got to do it, and you've got no choice. So that's the thing that I didn't even think of. You don't think of things like that.
Yeah.
You think, okay, you know, if the worst happens, you have to organise a funeral, but you don't think of the other things.
Yeah.
And some of those things go on and on.
Yeah, I
and
was
on.
going to say.
Trust me.
Yeah.
They go on and on and on and on. You know, bank accounts get frozen as well. So that's another thing that I didn't even think of. But everything in that person's name gets frozen.
Right.
So you have to make sure that financially that you can
Yeah.
carry on until that's all sorted, if you know what I mean. But you don't. That's not something you actually think of.
Yeah.
Because
Of
I
course
didn't.
not, yeah. Well, thinking back to the early stage of your grief, what helped you the most at that time?
What helped me the most was in my soul is that, as I said, I did say it, you know, but that Andy's still here.
Yeah.
That is what really helped me. I couldn't let go of that he was still there. I could feel that he was still there. And that for me was the best thing. And talking to Andy's mum,
Yeah.
you know, she lost her boy. So talking to Andy's mum was always great. I mean, we're close anyway, but it was a great source of comfort to me. And that really helped me. So just knowing that Andy was still with me in my head and talking to his mum, those are the two real key things for me.
Yeah.
That helped.
I think that's a really important point as well, because during times like this, I think other people who aren't directly involved kind of want to help,
Yeah.
but sometimes maybe feel awkward or feel like
Yeah.
because they just want to take the pain away from you, and obviously they can't, and they can't understand because they don't, because it's not happening to them.
Exactly.
So I suppose like sharing it with somebody who's going through the same thing is the only really support and comfort that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, Mary lost John, her husband, about 11 years ago, 12 years ago. So, of course, she understands it. But then also this is her, like I say, this is her boy. So she's feeling the grief as much as I am. And so I think we're just like a comfort for each other. And it is important. And, you know, I suppose if you don't have, like I say, I've got a big family and I've got Mary. If you don't have that, then you have to seek that. If you feel that you need it, go for help. There are lots of great sort of grief counsellors out there that are really brilliant. And if you're not sure where to start, you know, go to your GP first. Talk to your GP, because they'll have a good source of information. Or maybe go to someone like even a Marie Curie, because Marie Curie will again have, you know, a great sort of index of information and people that you can talk to.
Definitely, Jacqui, because I think even me working as a GP and like seeing people going through those early stages of grief, I think sometimes just coming through the door and having that space that's not directly linked to your family, and we're just there to listen. And almost like, I remember seeing patients of mine who would be really in a state of panic or denial or intense emotional states. And I think having somebody say to you, this is a normal human reaction. Everyone responds to it differently. There's nothing wrong with you. We don't need to give you antidepressants or anything. Not straight away anyway. And it's kind of holding that space for them to say it's a completely human reaction, and also like a very personal one.
Yes.
And I think just kind of the things I used to do anyway would just be like, I'm going to have a call with you next week, or I'll see you again next week. Yeah. And even just giving them that routine, that somehow getting them from one day to next and checking and saying, how are you feeling today? And then they can reflect with me, well, last time we spoke, you were feeling like this. You were just kind of putting in place like basic self-care. Yeah. And actually going, oh, actually now I'm going out for a walk and I'm doing those things. It's those small things initially, but also the reassurance that these feelings like will improve over time. Yeah. But it's just kind of like having the support around you to help you sit with it.
Exactly. And I think, this is important, to seek that help. Yeah. If you feel that you need it, don't try and be a hero. Go and get that support. Like I said, I didn't personally go for counselling, but like I say, because I had people like Mary, I had, there's 6 of us, 6 siblings in our family. So I had lots of people to talk to. And they all knew, obviously, Andy really well. He's their brother-in-law, So I had that network around me. But trust me, if I felt I needed it, I would have been knocking on that door of a GP or Marie Curie. Macmillan Cancer Support were great as well. So they're, again, another... It's not just for... They won't have, counsellors just because someone passed away with cancer. They'll have counsellors in general.
Yeah, they do actually. And they also have, again, for working as a GP, almost leading up to it. Because sometimes, like I say... or you said people's grief journeys are different. You can start going through a process as the kind of, if a death is expected, it's just a think of time almost holding your hand through that process leading up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if it is, if your loved one is going through end of life care, and maybe there's a hospice looking after that person. I mean, Andy didn't go to the hospice. He was at home. Yeah. And they were great, Pembridge.
Did you have them coming out like the district?
They came, they came, they were great. Dr. Bernardo, Claire, then we had district nurses. But Dr. Bernardo and Claire came from Pembridge, and then they organised, district nurses along with Macmillan to come in. But they were absolutely brilliant. I often hear Andy, with especially Dr. Bernardo, for some reason they really got on.
Really?
And he was fabulously Italian. And I just hear them all laughing. Yes.
That's so good, though.
Yeah. And I was just, oh, God, there he goes. Yeah. But so even things like that, even your the people in the hospice, if it is end-of-life care, they've got, look to them for help as well. But get the help and don't sort of try and suffer in silence because that's when it can then escalate to something else.
Talking about grief as a journey, and we spoke about the initial feelings that you had and getting from one day to the next. What was your next chapter in that journey over this time?
Well, like I say, I did, spent several months not really. I was, functioning and everything. Yeah. And just doing stuff. And I even went to New York with the sisters. They said, come on, we're going to go on a girls' trip. My brother was doing a play out there. So that was a great excuse. So we all went, 4 of us went, and it was great. It's tinged with sadness, but, it was great because you think when me and Andy went to New York, do you know what I mean? And it's just everything kind of changed. And like I said, I didn't meet anyone. And obviously there's things like silly little things that, we'd go for coffees together, we'd go for lunch together, we would go to cinema, we would go for dinners, we would go on holidays. I haven't got that person to do that with. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm not going for coffees, I'm not going for lunch, I'm not going to the cinema, I'm not going on holidays unless it's with my sisters and
Yeah.
what have you, or more recently now with friends. But it's really different. Funny enough, I was talking to Geth about it. We were talking about it on Wednesday because I'd just gone on holiday to Tenerife with a group of friends for my friend's birthday, and he was saying, because he's on his own, and we were having a chat about it. He was saying, I love seeing your photos and everything, and he was saying, yeah, because it's really difficult, isn't it, when you're on your own? He said, because you're like me, who do I go on holiday with? And I said, well, it has to be with friends. And we said, yeah, but it's got to be the right friends, because you don't want to be spending all the time with them. And so it is things like that. I did eventually, it was the September of towards, I don't know what happened, it must have been Andy in my head saying, just get on with it now, Jack. So that's when I started meeting people again. I mean, I'm talking about sort of TV people. So I started contacting people again and saying, let's have a meet. Can I meet with you?
Yeah.
So that's when I started. So it was about, sort of 8-9 months before I started doing anything like that. And but it was good. So obviously something pushed me.
Yeah.
And for me, it was Andy that said, come on now, this is it now. Get out there. Get on with it, Jack. Because that's what you'd say to me, just get on with it. Yeah, just get on
Maybe
with it.
it's like you said, though, that part of you that still
Yeah.
it still lives on in you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe those and the important things, when it's the right time for you, he'll
Yeah.
crop up in your mind like he would do if he was here.
Exactly. It's like that. That's it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I did. And, maybe I could say that I sort of threw myself into work then, because then it became, I want to be busy now. I just want to keep being busy, so I don't really have too much time to sort of dwell. And it's been great, and I'm really grateful for that push that I got.
So when you, after those 8 or 9 months, you got back into it,
Yeah.
what was your first job then, and how did you feel kicking things off again?
Well, funny enough, I think my first... I mean, I'd always been doing like my fashion expert work, which was great. Certainly at that time at QVC, going in as a fashion expert, which is fantastic. But my first sort of, after doing, I've done things for ITV and Lorraine and This Morning and what have you, and lots of TV work in the past. But Money for Nothing was the first one I got. And the funny thing is, it was a programme, it's a series, because that's what I do. I make stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a show that Andy knew that I really liked. And I remember that day I was in Sainsbury's. Other supermarkets are available, obviously. I was in Sainsbury's after I'd met with the commissioner, because it's BBC Scotland, and at that time who was it that was the commissioner at that time? Lovely lady. Anyway, I met her, and then she introduced me to Michelle, who runs For Real Keen, who make the show. And I met with Michelle, and like I said, then I was in Sainsbury's one day. It was probably the December, and she said, "Oh, we'd like to offer you things." Because I said to them, I don't want to be a presenter.
Right.
I shouldn't be a presenter first, because although people in the craft world and all of that might know me, to come and do this show and just step right in as a presenter, I'd rather start as an artisan, which I did.
Yeah.
So I started as an artisan. So Jay would bring me stuff, Jay Blades or Sarah would bring me stuff, and then I would upcycle them and make them fabulous. And so I did as an artisan, I think, for one series 8.
Right.
And then I said, okay, then the next series I did as a presenter. So, but I literally burst into tears in Sainsbury's. I mean, gosh.
When you look back and things like that and actually think about the journey of doing it, it's only when you unpick it like this and reflect on it, you realise probably how far you've come.
Yeah.
And how like how hard it was.
It was. I mean, I think the reason I sort of almost burst into tears in the supermarket is because I knew that Andy would be like...
Yeah. He was
"That's
like, there
it,
you
Jack.
go.
There you go.
You're off again.
That's right. That's it. Get off and do it." So...
And also knowing that belief in him that had to be the voice to push you, because obviously you're still grieving him, and probably this process, like we said, is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good message, like you said.
Sorry, can I get a tissue?
You've got to sit
Sorry. Yeah.
or anyone who's like listening, because I suppose you've not tried to fight the feelings. You've just
No.
let them like still be there.
Yeah.
And then, but you still
Thank you so
continued
much. Thank
with
you.
what you're going.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all right, Jacqui.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just sometimes, when you think about those things, but it's what it is. And you have to ride that wave,
Yeah.
and that's okay. It's okay to
Yeah.
do that, I mean, I must admit, I was doing co-hosting with Geth.
On Morning Live.
Yeah, last year. And Steve McGann had come on and talking about, actually it was for Marie Curie, because they have their the daffodil appeal
Yes.
every year in the spring. Actually, I'm doing a lifeline for them for the BBC.
Yeah, I was going to call
Yeah. And Steve McGann was talking about, his father, and it was just like, live, just like tears streaming down. But, so many, we got inundated with people saying, thank you for being real and for being honest. And I'm going through, I lost my husband, and do you know what I mean? So it's just, if you do start crying and people don't know why, don't worry about it. It's just one of those things.
I think when I asked you to do this podcast and we're talking about Andy and how you dealt with grief, I think one of the reasons I really wanted to speak to you about it and share your story, and obviously there's part of things that I didn't know about, is that actually a lot of people don't talk about it, or sometimes feel awkward talking about it. But it's something that, like you're describing, over that journey of the last 5 years, it's just become integrated in your life, and now you've dealt with it. And it's all right to say it's not something you can go, oh right, when's this going to be over?
No. No.
And also, like you say, Andy still lives on in you, so you kind of it's an important part to just adapt to a different life,
exactly,
without forgetting the one you previously had.
Exactly, absolutely. And it is important, and it's never going to be the same, but you will move on and carry on, but it's just in a different way. That's all. I went to the cinema for the first time last year? Just our local little cinema, and it was weird, but it was all right. I made sure I went just sort of during the daytime, so there wasn't many people there, and like I say, it was a little local cinema. But that was like a milestone. It's like, my gosh, and I know a lot of people do go to the cinema on their own anyway. But I'd never done it. Like I say, we'd always done things together, always. So that was good. So things do, adapt. That's what happens. And, always remember that, whatever your belief is, that person is, for me, is guiding you and is looking down on you and protecting you. And do you know what I mean? There, if you want them to be there.
I think it's really an interesting and good point what you said about just last year going to the cinema again, because it's like on the journey of doing different things at your own time and your own pace. Because in some ways, like, you're probably already then, well, you would have been then, back at work, back on TV, which, let's face, like you said, you're on the telly. So it's like something where, it's, even though you probably take it in your stride, you've got to be looking good, feeling good, mentally able to deal with it. It's not just like, oh, you've gone back to work and it's a job that you just say doing from home or something like that. Not to say that that's not under the same stress as you were, but it's you are putting yourself out there, but still doing the small things in the background in your own time, at your own pace, as you feel comfortable to handle it.
Yeah, exactly. You know what it's like. When you're doing television, you know what it's like. It's like you're doing these shows, you're on performance, if you like, because you're dealing with, if I'm at the tip, I'm going into people's car boots, I've got to be like, hi, what you throwing away today then? And you're on it like that. You have to do pieces to camera. You have to, no matter what's going on at home, or maybe the night before you weren't feeling great, but you have to get up there when you're doing your pieces to camera. You can't be going, really great work that the artists.
You've got to be
like, what Katie and Sophie did, absolutely amazing. They've turned my old junk into, and you've got to be like, you know, if you do morning live, you got to, you can't be like, oh.
I remember you saying to me actually when you go to the tip and how the tip is like at a place. I mean, it sounds
love it.
like, yeah, but it's a place where people throw bits of their life
Yeah.
away. It's not just chucking out
No.
junk or rubbish. It's actually,
Yeah.
and I suppose it's a place where when people are going back to the start of our conversation,
Yeah.
when you said you've got to go through not only sorting out the legal bits and the life
it's
admin on
those
the biggest
things.
thing, is actually going through the possessions, the things you had together,
Yeah.
the home that you had together, and deciding. I mean, that for me, I think would be really hard. Deciding how far do I go with this? Is this going to have
Yeah.
to be? Am I going to carry on living in our
Yeah.
home, our bubble, or do I take your things and put them there, or do
Yeah.
I go, right, this is a new start, do I change where I live?
Yeah.
All those things
Yeah.
are so massive and dramatic.
Yeah, they are.
And the tip is where people are
This is
actually
it.
living it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's a lot of reasons why people do throw things. Obviously, maybe they've inherited it because they move into a new house. Furniture was there. They found things in
Yeah.
the shed. Found things in the loft. They have to get rid of it. Someone gave it to them because they didn't have any money back then, but now they can get rid of it because they've got new stuff now. And a lot of the things are, you know, my husband passed away, and I've kept, you know, his toolbox and this
Yeah.
side table or his desk and things. But now it's time for me to, you know, thing. Or my mum passed away, but this was her favourite sideboard. You know, I'm so glad that you took it because, you know, to think that it's going to live
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you hear so many stories of why people are having to
Yeah.
get rid of these things that, you know, mean something to them, but they know they have to.
Yeah.
They have to let it go, or they're clearing out their home of their mum or their
Yeah.
dad or their grandparents who passed away, and they have to clear their home now of all the furniture that they might have seen as they were growing up. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I remember my nan used to keep all her little trinkets in there.
Yeah.
She loved it, and she'd polish them every day. You hear all these stories,
Yeah.
but they have to do it. What do they do?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a really, I imagine, really like
Yeah.
hard things. It's the things
Very
that you
tough.
see, the things that you in your
Yeah.
environment that part of your life subconsciously, like that's part of your home.
Yeah.
But it's there because of them.
Yeah, and that's the things I love, because then I totally get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel their grief.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them obviously off camera, I'll say to
Yeah.
them that, you know, I lost my husband, and you know, and then we will have a little chat at the tip.
Yeah.
Do you know
Well,
what I
I think
mean?
that's amazing, Jackie, and
Yeah.
I think that would help them because they wouldn't know
No.
the backstory
No.
and not expect you to kind of say that. So potentially on a day that they've been dreading, and a day
Yeah.
where, like when you're saying at the start, right, I've just got to get up, get into gear,
Yeah.
just get this stuff, just get done whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
But actually maybe meeting you
Yeah.
and going, look, I had to do it, and
Yeah.
it's awful, but
Yeah.
you know,
But it's funny, but for them, that day maybe, just
Yeah.
having that little chat,
yeah,
they'd be like, oh, you know, because you wouldn't know. You walk past me on the street, you wouldn't think, oh, she's a widow.
yeah, of course not, of course not.
You wouldn't think that. Oh, she lost her husband. How would you know? You know, you wouldn't know. It's like if, you know, someone has a mental illness, you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important for people to talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think a question that I wanted to ask you is actually about when people around you, and so you're going through your journey of grief at any point that you're at.
Yeah.
Is there, like, people often wonder what are the best things to say or not to say? And I know you'll probably say it depends on the person, how your relationship with them. But just the people listening, if you were going to say, look, it's the best things that you found from your experience, what advice would you give?
It's difficult because, again, it comes down to, and it does come down to the relationship you have with that person, and it does come down to being honest. And
Yeah.
you can say, you know, Jack, I just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You know, I can't, even you have to be honest and just say, I can't imagine what you're going through, but look, I'm here if you need me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not worth you saying, oh, how are you?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because how do you think I am?
Allow them, exactly.
How do
Allow
you
them
think
to
I am?
guide you.
Yeah, so just be honest and just say,
Yeah.
I actually don't know what to say, because I can't imagine what you're going through, because to lose Andy, you know, such
Yeah.
a great guy, I am so sorry, but look, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk, and then let the person.
And you've not dodged the topic, but you've not forced it
But you've
either.
not forced it either. Like I say,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, later on, you know, I don't know, like I say, it depends. I mean, my brother might pick up the phone, you know, you're right, sis, and he'll just say that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's my brother. Do you know what I mean? And you can say that. But I think if you're not sure on what to say, then you'd have to say, just be honest.
Yeah.
And say, I really don't know what to say, and I can't imagine what you're going through.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm here if you need me, and I can just sit, we can just have a cup of tea and just talk about nonsense.
It's like hearing you say that reminds me of one of my really good friends lost his mum a couple of years ago, really suddenly and tragically. And now, because I knew his mum, and she was this amazing woman, and I know the day that she died on her birthday just because I'm so close to him.
Yeah.
And I always text him and say, thinking of you today or something like that.
Yeah.
And I said to him, look, is that all right, me doing that? Just because I am thinking of her. And he's like, yeah, Jane, because it shows it's not just me thinking of her, and you're like, and I think it comes down to, like you say, about remembering Andy.
Yeah.
It's kind of thinking about them in terms of life as well as losing them.
Yeah, exactly. I do the same with my friend, you know, my friend Rachel.
Yeah.
On her mum's anniversary, on her mum's birthday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I didn't know her mum, but Rachel's devastated by her mum's death, and she still is to this day. And this was, Rachel just turned 40, so this would have been maybe, I don't know, nearly 20 years ago. But
it doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, you know, on those sort of key days, I'll always message her, and we'll have a chat, and do you know what I mean? And we'll talk about Margaret.
Yeah, to show that like you're remembering, and like it's up to them then if they like, actually I'm feeling awful today, or actually I'm in a better spirits about it, and that might change year by year.
Yeah, exactly.
But just you remembering them and just kind of reaching out means a lot, just because you're remembering them and the person as well.
It does. You know, as I was saying to you before, you know, my sister Bella and her husband Richard lost their first child, Che. It took him home, 3 days old, and he passed away. And we will always celebrate his birthday, because he would have been 12. You know, and we'll go to the graveside, we'll get a birthday cake, we'll open the Prosecco, and we'll sing happy birthday.
Really? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Without fail. It's just what it is. And we'll say, oh, no, you know, Che is up there with Andy, making trouble, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt, making trouble. Do you know what I mean? And that's how we deal with it. You know, and so whether it's a child that you've lost, a parent, you know, a grandparent, a loved one, a close, you know, the closest friends, or, you know, just be open and just always remember them.
Yeah.
I think that's important, to always remember them.
Yeah, I definitely do as well.
That they're not just, you know, oh, it's just like nothing.
Yeah. So I think it's like everyone has different ways of dealing with things.
Exactly.
And also I think you might change how you kind of think about things during the whole journey of grief. But I think from here, listening to you and hearing how like you talk about Andy and how it's remembering the life you had together, and just remembering him, and he's still part of you even though he's not physically here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. That's exactly it. Although he's not physically here.
Yeah.
He's
he
here
lives on with how you carry on with your life.
Exactly. Which is important. And everyone will deal with things differently. But, you know, sit back sometimes and think about what you've done, you know, since you've lost that person also. Just, you know, and sometimes give yourself that, you know, well done you.
Yeah.
You're doing it, and do it for them, if that's, you know, if that helps as well.
Yeah. Like you said about getting back into work and throwing yourself back into it. And that would be the same for anyone, no matter what job they're doing.
Yeah.
But like it's those, I suppose, it's like integration, isn't it, back into you? And I was going to say into a normal life, isn't normal life, into a new life.
Yeah.
And it's a new life in most cases that you don't really want to be living, because you didn't want them to go. So it's hard to kind of make those adaptations.
Yeah, but we don't have control over that.
Yeah.
We don't have control over it. I didn't have control over that.
Yeah.
You know, that control was taken away. So what can you do? you can't, you know. I mean, obviously it's just like, just awful, but if you haven't got control over it, you haven't got control over it, you know, and you have to accept, you know, and it took me a while to accept, but I have to accept, you know.
I was listening to quite a few podcasts about grief before speaking to
Yeah.
you. Like I say, because I've only I've experienced like grandparents and people dying, but it's been in a different setting, perhaps of like you're losing Andy. And when people, that's why I keep coming back to this point of the journey of grief, because it's very much an independent or unique thing. But the end, not the end point of it, but this idea of acceptance, and that's your own personal way of kind of putting the pieces together, and it's your way to kind of move forward now with things, just accepting that whatever happened, or how, not whatever happened, but in terms of the circumstances of how things happened and how they've changed your life aren't in your control, but like I say, integrating that person into the next chapter of your life, however that's going to be, can actually be quite comforting to the person once it gets to that stage.
I mean, but this is it, and that's what I'm saying, just think about how far you have come, and that in itself will build a little bit of confidence, you know, because it's important to recognise what you've done.
Yes.
It's important to recognise that, and for you and going through it, and for me, it's just like, well, that's what I do.
Yeah.
You know, I do TV programs. I go into dusty houses for Hammer and look around and do all that. I go to the tip. You know, I go to my studio and I make stuff. I make it look great. I go to the artisans, see what they're doing. And you sometimes you just sort of say, well, this is what I do. But actually, take a look, really. You know, if you're going, you know, out every day, you're going to the office, you know, you're, whether you're a PA, whether you're a filing clerk, whether you're working in a bank, whether you're working in a supermarket, you're getting out there and doing it. Because if you weren't there, people wouldn't be able to get their shopping. If you weren't in that office, that wouldn't run. If you weren't in that bank, people are not banking. Do you know what I mean? And so no matter what you do, you know, give yourself almost a pat on the back, and because you have actually built your confidence,
and you're
without
doing
even
that
knowing it.
Almost in some ways, because the journey of grief is alone. You've kind of rebuilt your next chapter. You know, by yourself.
Absolutely. You've got that strength. It's like someone sent me a card, and I frame it. It's in the loo, actually. It's in my bathroom. But it's like, you know, it's you're stronger than you think and braver than you know.
Yeah.
That's it, you know. And it's like someone else sent me a card, one of Mary's good friends, gorgeous Hillary. You know, when it's night, look for stars. When it's raining, look for rainbows.
Yeah.
And those little cards, things like that, I framed them. You know, it's things like that, you know, it's those little sort of affirmations that make you think, actually, I've done it. I am, and I'm doing it. And that's what people should think, and build your confidence from that. Because if you look back at what you've done, which we tend to not do because we're just getting on with it. But if you look, just say, gosh, I've done this, I've done it, and I will continue to do it. And that's confidence building.
Yes, and it's really powerful in also coming from you as somebody who's been through it. And actually, like, I think one of the things with grief is that people don't, like, there's the first elements of it, but then as you move forward with life, how you deal with it, as you build your life into the next chapters of it, it's often not spoken about that much.
It's true, but it is important to recognise it. And I think it's only when you're talking to people, that's why it's always good to talk. And someone will say to you, but, you know, Jane, look how far you've come, you know, because you might not see it. Except because you're just getting on with it. And that's why it's so important to talk. And like I said, I know we say it a lot obviously for mental health, because it is so important. You know, and it's the same thing for grief. You know, it is really important to talk, and it's important to recognise what you've done and how far you've come, and that you know, and to also acknowledge that the grief is still going to be there. it's not going to go away. It doesn't just magically disappear. It's there, you know, but you're sort of more in control of it, if you like.
Exactly.
Until there's going to be moments that come, of course. You know, Andy passed away, it was New Year's Day. New Year's Day is kind of never the same for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
How do you deal with days like that?
Well, I sometimes I would be with Mary, but other times I'd be at home because we kind of liked being at home. We've done some New Year's where we're out, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. Do you know what I mean? New Year's Eve, we'd do like go to Primrose Hill and let off lanterns with everyone else. We'd go to the sort of, you know, raves or whatever and what have you. But afterwards, we're just like, you know what? It's not all that.
Home, yeah.
Just go. So we'd just be at home. We'd have our champagne and, you know, and things like that. And we just have music on. And do you know what I mean? So most times I want to be home for New Year's, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I want to be at home. I have spent, the first New Year's Day I spent with Mary. And then after that, I would spend Christmas with her, but I would make sure I was at home. For me, I wanted to be at home.
Yeah.
So I'm at home New Year's Eve. I'm at home New Year's Day. I'll bring in the New Year's, you know, and I'm at home.
Yeah.
And it's fine because Andy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's absolutely fine.
In that place where all those amazing memories were made, it's nice to kind of maybe take that moment on that time.
Exactly.
To kind of be in that space again.
Absolutely. Someone said to me, one of my good friends, a producer, said to me, after Andy passed away, and he had seen Andy because he had come round, him and David had come round literally on the 28th of December. And it was nice, and Andy was sat there, and he had a little glass of something with them. And but then Mark said to me a few months later, so are you going to move? And I said, for what?
Yeah.
Why would I move?
It's like that idea of chucking things out at the tip or changing.
Yeah.
How dramatic do you kind of want to go?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, you have to eventually sort of get their clothes and their possessions. You have to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? You have to deal with that. But moving is up for what?
Yeah.
You know, we liked our little flat, me and Andy.
Yeah.
We liked our little flat in a good location. Do you know what I mean? We can get everywhere really easily. Even when we lived in Stamford in Lincolnshire, we lived there for over 5 years. We always kept the flat because we'd always be kind of having meetings or working in London. Why would I move?
Yeah.
Because that's my place where I feel safe.
Yeah.
I walk in, I feel safe.
Yeah. And that is so important.
It's so important, honestly. It really, really is. Certainly for me, it's so important. You know,
I get why you'd feel like that, actually, because I live on my own too.
Yeah.
And I feel really safe where I live.
Yeah.
And I think if I'd have been in a home where I'd been happy with my partner, it just being in that space of like going somewhere new, I think it would take so much more adaptation and like because it isn't that safe spot, and it never was.
Yeah.
So it's harder to.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for someone else, you know, like I say, it's an individual thing. For someone else, it'd be like that. I need to get out of here. There's too many memories. I need to move, and that's okay because that's what they want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, that's my haven. That is where we were together. That's where I am.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel safe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So each to their own, really. You know, I think maybe some people do. I'm sure they do. They say, well, I can't stay here. There's just too many memories.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got to go somewhere else. And that's all right. You have to do what's right for you. But for me, feel perfectly safe and happy where I am.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And as a sort of final point, Jacqui, about your work you're doing with Marie Curie.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me a bit about that?
Yeah. Marie Curie got in touch with me last year, actually, and they asked if I would do like a little like a sort of Q&A with them.
Yeah.
So I did, but I love the work that they do. And but what I'm going to do now for them is BBC have this appeal that they call Lifeline.
Yes.
That goes on, you know, on a Sunday I think this Sunday is Claudia Winkleman's doing for another great charity. But they would pinpoint the charities, and they would ask people can they do this appeal?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this for Marie Curie in the next week or two. We're going to film at one of their hospices in Hampstead. I'm going to meet, some of the people there, and someone who recently lost their nan, and he was going through a really tough time because he was really close. And just do pieces to camera around the gardens and around the things, and that will probably go on sometime in April during their appeal, during the Marie Curie daffodil appeal. And I think again it's important to do these kinds of things, and to go to the hospice. Like I say, although Andy wasn't at the hospice, I know the work that they do,
of course,
and I can relate to the families that are there, knowing that their loved ones, this is their end of life care, and so it's kind of like an honour for me to do that, and to be sort of chosen, and it's great. Jacqui's doing it, fantastic, which is good. Like it's an honour for me to do this with you as well, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. But so that's what I'm doing for Marie Curie, which I'm really pleased about.
I can't even imagine the support you give them, because it's so relatable, because you've actually been in their shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. I did. They do a Christmas Carol event in early December, which I did with them at Southwark Cathedral, which was lovely. But I did get so emotional.
I was going to say,
because you have to get up on everyone gets something to read, all the sort of people, because they have a nice bunch of actors and things that really support them. So we all got something to read. So you get up on the pulpit and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's just so like.
In a place like that as well, because it'd be so
and then you've got these hundreds of people.
The emotion, you'd be able to feel it.
You actually feel that, and it's
It must be amazing though as well, like being part of all those people that I suppose celebrating the people that they've lost, and that you've all mutually can experience them. That's probably why it's so powerful, because it wouldn't be like anything else.
No, absolutely. But I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I did it, and then I'm so glad I'm doing the Lifeline for them as well, which is good.
So I think it's one of those things, like I said earlier, that no one can understand unless you've been through it. So I think as a person, your voice, just because you have had that experience, is a really amazing support. Just to kind of wrap things up, I know we've spoken about advice, but if you've got any final bits of advice or anything that you give to anyone, either as somebody going through grief or as friends and family supporting somebody who's grieving.
Just be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, and be patient with yourself, and don't think that you have to be a certain way, or you have to do this or that in that order. You have to go with the flow, and like I said, it is about being kind to yourself, about being patient with yourself, and that you are going to have those highs and lows, those dark days, those days when you can do things, those days when you just don't want to. Just go with it. Just go with it, and get support. If it's coming from your family and friends, take it. If you need, support from, whether it's, counselling, or specialist advice, take it. Absolutely take it. But fundamentally, be kind to yourself and be patient.
No, that's amazing advice.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's so much support from your GP.
Absolutely.
And even just speaking to like the staff in the surgery, they can signpost you to bereavement services. You can speak to your GP.
Definitely.
We don't mind you just literally having a chat with us, and just having that point of contact where you're free to speak without judgment. It's completely confidential. It's nothing to do with anyone else other than the doctor and the patient. And I think sometimes having that freedom as well is important, to kind of remind people of that as well.
Absolutely, because sometimes it is easier for people to talk to people that
of course,
that are not attached to them, if you like. That's why I say the GPs are great, first source. If you don't know where else to go, if you think, well, where do I go? But there are a lot of grief counsellors out there, and grief counselling groups, and grief trusts, and obviously, let's say Marie Curie, Macmillan Cancer Support. but your GP, if you're not sure,
Yeah, exactly.
go to the GP first.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you
It's
so
good to speak
much.
to you. Thank you for sharing all this to me. Obviously, it's a really emotional topic, but I really appreciate you coming in to chat to me.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks, Jane.
No promise. Thank you.